Peppa receives a strange invitation from a new friend named Clarence for an unusual game. Clarence meets Peppa at his house with an unnaturally wide smile and glowing eyes. He leads her to his room where toys move by themselves and whisper secrets. Clarence suggests playing imaginary friends, but they begin materializing in the air around them. Peppa watches as the room's walls stretch and distort under Clarence's wild imagination. Clarence's imaginary creatures surround Peppa, their eyes glowing in the room's dim light. Clarence laughs, but his laughter echoes from invisible walls and endless ceilings above. Peppa tries to leave, but the door vanishes, and windows show infinite emptiness. Clarence starts a game called Transformations, and Peppa's body slowly begins changing shape. Her reflection in the mirror shows a completely different creature with twisted features. Clarence draws with crayons on walls, and his drawings come alive, crawling everywhere. Peppa hears her family's voices, but they sound distorted and impossibly far away. Clarence shows her a magic box from which shadows emerge without their owners. Time flows strangely in the room. Clocks run backward while sunlight flickers outside. Peppa realizes she's trapped in boundless imagination that has somehow become terrifying reality. Clarence offers her to stay forever and play his endless games without rules. The room's walls begin pulsating like a living heart while the floor turns soft. Peppa sees a portal to her world, but Clarence stands between her and escape. His eyes turn completely black while his smile stretches to impossible, frightening proportions. Peppa takes a final step toward the portal but hears Clarence whisper, "The game has just begun." The Lost Peppa Pig episode that never aired. A sunny day illuminated Peppa Pig's house, filling it with familiar laughter. Peppa and George played in their room, where a bunk bed stood against the wall. George below, Peppa above. Mummy Pig cooked in the kitchen, and Daddy Pig read the newspaper in the living room. Everything was as usual, but a slight, almost imperceptible tension hung in the air. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Susie Sheep stood on the doorstep, but her gaze was unusually empty, and her movements stiff. She didn't smile as always, nor did she jump with joy. Peppa, George, Mummy Pig, and Daddy Pig went for a picnic by the lake. The water was dark and still, reflecting the gloomy sky. They spread their blanket, but the air was heavy, foreshadowing something ominous. In the distance, an old, abandoned boat was visible, its outline appearing sinister. George pointed at the boat, his eyes filled with curiosity and fear. Peppa felt a chill, but curiosity prevailed. They approached closer. The boat creaked in the wind. Something stirred inside the boat, making strange sounds. Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig felt uneasy. Suddenly, Spider-Man leaped out of the boat, his suit torn, his gaze full of terror. Venom followed him, his black mass pulsating, absorbing the light. Venom extended tentacles towards Peppa, her heart frozen with fear. Spider-Man stood in defense, but Venom was too strong. The boat began to sway, threatening to engulf everyone. The pig family rushed to flee, escaping the horror. They ran without looking back until the boat disappeared from sight. At home, they couldn't sleep for a long time, remembering the terrifying encounter. The lesson was learned: not all adventures end well. Lost episode of Peppa Pig that never aired. The Peppa Pig house was enveloped in an unusual silence. Only a light breeze whispered outside the window. Peppa and George played in their room, where a bunk bed stood against the wall, George below, Peppa above. Their usual games seemed strangely muted. Mummy Pig cooked in the kitchen, and Daddy Pig read the newspaper in the living room, but their movements were slow and uncertain. Suddenly, a strange, sticky sound was heard. A figure stood at the doorstep, vaguely resembling Susie Sheep, but her eyes were empty and her body was covered in a black, pulsating mass. She didn't smile as usual and didn't jump for joy, only emitted a low growl. The figure slowly moved towards Daddy Pig, his newspaper falling to the floor. He tried to retreat, but his feet seemed rooted to the spot. The black mass began to envelop him, consuming his form. Mummy Pig froze, her gaze filled with horror. Peppa and George, hearing the noise, peeked out of their room. They saw Daddy Pig disappear under this living shadow. Mummy Pig let out a quiet, broken gasp. The creature, now even larger, turned towards her. She tried to run, but it was too late. The black substance caught up with her, and she too disappeared. Peppa and George hid under the bed, their little hearts pounding. They heard the creature slowly approaching their room. The door quietly creaked open. A huge black figure with eerie white eyes appeared in the doorway. Peppa and George huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. The creature slowly extended its sticky limb towards them. George, trembling, closed his eyes. Peppa, gathering all her courage, tried to push it away. But it was too late. The black mass covered them both, engulfing them in its darkness. Now complete silence reigned in the house. Only a light breeze whispered outside the window. No one knew what happened to the Peppa Pig family. Only a black, pulsating shadow remained in the house, waiting for the next guest. Lost episode of Peppa Pig that never aired. A sunny day illuminated Peppa Pig's house, filling it with familiar laughter. Peppa and George played in their room, where a bunk bed stood against the wall, George on the bottom, Peppa on top. Mummy Pig cooked in the kitchen, and Daddy Pig read the newspaper in the living room. Everything was as usual, but a slight, almost imperceptible tension hung in the air. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Susie Sheep stood on the threshold, but her gaze was unusually blank and her movements stiff. She didn't smile as always, and didn't jump with joy. Suddenly, Spider-Man appeared on the roof of the house, his suit torn and dirty. He looked very tired and scared. Spider-Man slowly descended the wall, his movements uncertain. He peered into the window, his eyes full of anxiety. The Pig family froze, watching him. No one understood what was happening. An ominous silence hung in the air. In the shadow of the trees behind the house, a dark, shapeless shadow flickered. It moved quickly and silently, approaching the house. The shadow was huge and menacing, its outlines resembling something terrible. It glided to the back door like a ghost. The Pig family felt a chill down their spines. This was something very frightening. Daddy Pig, trying to be brave, slowly approached the door. His heart pounded in his chest. He carefully opened the door, peering outside. There was no one behind the door, only silence. Daddy Pig felt relief, but it was short-lived. Something was wrong. Suddenly, venom burst from around the corner of the house, his black mass swaying. He was huge and terrifying, his eyes burning with an ominous fire. Venom let out a terrifying roar that made the windows rattle. He moved with incredible speed, heading towards the house. The Pig family was terrified. Spider-Man, seeing Venom, tried to warn the pigs. He shouted, but his voice was weak and hoarse. He tried to break through to them, but his strength was failing. Venom was too fast. The Pig family watched in horror. They were trapped. Venom burst into the house, his tentacles smashing furniture. He was unstoppable, his fury boundless. The Pig family scattered in different directions, trying to hide. Venom pursued them, his roar filling the house. It was a true nightmare. Mummy Pig, trying to protect the children, grabbed a frying pan. She was full of determination, her eyes burning. She swung the frying pan, preparing for battle. Venom approached, his shadow looming over her. Mummy Pig was ready to fight. Suddenly, a chef emerged from the kitchen, his white hat askew. He was tall and thin, his eyes insane. In his hands, he held a huge cleaver from which blood dripped. The chef let out a terrifying laugh, his voice piercing. He looked very sinister. The chef, ignoring Venom, lunged at Spider-Man. His cleaver flashed in the air. Spider-Man tried to dodge, but was too weak. The chef was possessed, his movements fast and precise. It was a terrible sight. Venom, seeing the chef, froze for a moment, his black mass still. He was surprised. His eyes widened. The chef was an unexpected turn. Venom slowly retreated, his roar quieter. He did not expect such a turn of events.